Good morning, YouTube. Now we're going to preheat the oven and preheat our baking vessel. I'm using this large combo cooker. It comes in two different parts, like this pot thingy and then like a skillety pan thing. Anyways, it's made of cast iron, so it retains heat really well. And I'm gonna preheat it for about 30 minutes to an hour. Then we're going to bake the loaf with the lid on for about 22 to 25 minutes, and then take the loaf out and then bake it by itself for another 22 to 25 minutes, or until it's like the brownness that you want. So I like this pan specifically because it retains heat really well, and the seal on the lid cover thing is pretty good. So having a good seal just means that there will be like condensation that builds up, and then that will like produce steam, so it'll keep the surface of the dough soft so your loaf can spring up in that first like 10 to 15 minutes of covered baking. Even though you're gonna bake it for like 22 to 25 minutes, like that spring will most likely happen in the first 10 to 15 minutes. Anyways, if you don't have a large combo cooker, you can use a bunch of other things. So I have used like a Dutch oven before. I've also just used like an IKEA pot, like a big IKEA pot with a good lid on it. I mean, it doesn't really matter, you just want the lid so it prevents the crust from forming. So if you stick the loaf like in by itself, the heat is just gonna like cause the crust to form quite quickly, and you don't want that because you want that like 10 to 15 minutes so your bread can spring up. So I just recommend getting anything with a lid. You can like build your own steaming vessel too. I've tried doing that as well. It works, but honestly just something with a lid is good enough. Okay, so we're gonna preheat the oven to 500, leave the pot in for about 30 minutes to an hour, and then come back and bake bread. And I will see you guys in like an hour probably. Okay, see you later. I've taken my dough out of the fridge and I'm gonna show you what it looks like. So it has like a nice skin on it, so it's like not so sticky anymore. And then it comes out of the Banneton quite easily, which is good and why we floured it so much. Then you can see there's like bubbles on the surface, and a way to test if it's properly proofed is the poke test. So you poke it, and if it springs back slowly and still leaves a bit of an indentation, it's properly proofed. So I'll show you what underproof dough looks like, but overproof dough, just if you poke it, it would completely collapse just because the gluten structures aren't strong enough to withstand any pressure. So again, this is what properly proofed dough looks like. It'll spring back slowly, but still leave a little bit of an indentation. This is what underproof dough looks like. So this is the night before I'm putting it into the oven. So it hasn't proofed yet, and obviously it's underproofed. So I'm gonna poke it, and you'll see that it springs back really quickly without leaving any mark. And I'm gonna poke it again. And again, there's no mark. So here's my hot pan. I'm gonna sprinkle some flour in the same direction that I'm gonna try and flip the bread onto. And so this flour just keeps the bottom of the bread from browning too quickly, because that's a problem I realized I was having. Like the bottom of the loaf was getting a little bit burnt while the rest of it was staying
staying normal. So now I'm gonna try and flip it. This is the part that I mess up the most often, so hopefully it'll go well. So now I'm just going to take my hand and guide it down, and the loaf should fall out quite easily. Perfect. Oh, it's so pretty, I love it. Okay, and then I'm gonna take my lame. I got this online, but you basically just need these razor blades, and you can buy them at Target. I bought this pack at Target for like $5. So now I'm just going to score it. As you can see, scoring the dough is just cutting a slit in it. So when the dough gets its oven spring, it'll have a place to expand, and a lot of the times you'll get something called an ear. So we're gonna put it in the oven and put the lid on. So, ow! So now it's gonna bake for 22 minutes with the lid on at 500. So now it's been 25 minutes, and I'm gonna take it out of the oven. Now I'm turning the oven down to 450. And I'm gonna put this back in for about 20 to 25 minutes. Look at that nice ear. So we'll see you in 20 minutes. Okay, so I'm gonna take the bread out of the oven now. It looks super good. So this is what it looks like. So here's what it looks like. It's beautifully browned, and it has a nice spring to it. There's a cute little ear right here. These are called ears. So yeah, now I'm just gonna let it cool for, I don't know, like 3 hours or so. And then I'm gonna have it for lunch. It's so beautiful. One more clip, because if you look closely, you can see all of the gluten structures. That's the little like hairy parts here. And you can see that lots of gluten was developed, and the crust is nice and crackly. You can see here, there's more gluten. And yeah. Oh, it's so beautiful. I'm so excited. One of the things I love is the way that fresh bread smells. So this one, it's kind of sour, which makes sense because I let the levain sit overnight, and then it proofed for about 10-11 hours, and then I let it sit overnight again for the final proof. So it's gonna taste a bit more sour than if you had just let it sit for less time, I guess. Because usually people in the recipes, the bread, the levain sits for like 5 hours, and then the dough sits for another 5-6 hours, and then it'll sit overnight. So that total will be like 24 hours. But my bread, I think the total was maybe 36 hours of total fermentation and proofing and whatnot. But it smells lovely and sour. And since it's rye bread, it doesn't get as much spring as what you would see on other YouTube channels, but that's completely normal. If I used wheat bread, I would have expected it to be much higher. But yeah. This is so good. I'm so happy. I was worried that it was a little overproofed,
but as you can see, when I took it out of the Banneton and put it into the pan, it kept its shape pretty nicely. So actually, it didn't overproof, and everything is great, and it's beautiful bread. Yeah, so with bread, you basically just have to keep trying until you find the fermentation time and like baking time that works for you. Some people, if it's really warm out, it'll be 4 hours proofing. If it's say like 75 degrees, maybe it'll take like 6 to 8 hours. Maybe 75 to 80 will take like 6-ish hours, and then like 72 may take 6 to 8 hours, and then 68 may take like 8 to 10 hours. You basically just have to keep trying until you get it right, but don't be scared of overproofing because you still have bread at the end of the day. And bread is so tasty! I'm so excited to eat this.
Okay, so now we're gonna slice the bread. Hopefully it turns out nicely. Oh, I'm so excited. I let it cool for about 2.5 hours. Maybe should have let it cool for longer, but you know, I want to eat my bread. It looks so good. Ah! Oh my god! Look at these holes. They're so good. I'm so happy. So, I like my crumb to be like with smaller holes, and that's why I press out the air. But some people like bigger holes, and so they don't press out the air. But this is perfect and just the way I wanted my bread. So since I like making avocado toast, I really don't want the big holes or else they'll fall through when I'm mashing the avocado. It's so beautiful. Okay, so when you're looking at it, you can see that the holes are nicely developed. Oh my god, just look at that. It's so beautiful. Like they're all nicely developed. The crumb is not too tight. Even though the holes are smaller, like each one has become a hole in itself, if that makes sense. I'll show pictures of my underproofed sourdough in the future and you'll see the difference. But yeah, it's so beautiful. Look at these gluten structures. Gluten, 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 gluten. And then you can see that the crust is thin but also crispy. And I have a teensy ear. What I want to improve on is getting a better ear in the future, but I'm super happy with this one. And this one is 20% rye, 80% bread flour.
So I have one more tip for you guys. If you don't eat bread that quickly, say if you can't finish a loaf in like 3 days, I would recommend splitting your loaf in half and then freezing one of them. So that just makes it so that like your bread doesn't go stale as quickly. Well, like one of them is frozen, so that one won't go stale as quickly. And then you can eat the unfrozen one. And then when you want more bread, you just defrost it. So also when you're keeping the bread like on the counter and stuff, I would recommend that you keep it cut side down. So just like this, because when you leave it up and stuff, like more air will get in and like cause your bread to become stiller faster. Anyways, I hope you guys liked this video and that it was helpful and you know you got some good tips and stuff. So it would mean a lot if you guys would like and subscribe to my channel. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!